Hey everybody, what's up? This is Swordfish, and today I'm going to be doing a first impressions on the much anticipated Trails of Cold Steel 2. Now, before I start saying anything, I just gotta go I just gotta do this. Thank you, God. Yes, it is finally here. Sorry about my fanboyism, but I've been waiting for this thing for like 9 months. Okay? I beat the first game. I have it right here. I beat the first game twice. I beat it once. Loved it. And I don't know why, but the second I finished it, I did a New Game Plus immediately after I beat it. Immediately. The second I did it, I was like, yep, New Game Plus, click, 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 and I went through the whole game again. It's just that good. It is. And Trails of Cold Steel is just one of my favorite RPGs in a long time. And this game, Cold Steel 2, the sequel, I'm just so glad that it's here. Trails of Cold Steel was very well received in the U.S. I don't know how it fared in Japan. I heard it actually wasn't as good. Like, the reception for it wasn't as good. But over here, the game is really popular. And that's good because the game is really good. I have very little knowledge of most of the Trails games. Cold Steel was my first Trails game. After I beat that, I moved on to Trails in the Sky. Sky notification there. I moved on to Trails in the Sky on Steam. I played about 10 or 12 hours of it. I like the game. I don't really have much knowledge. I did hear that you really don't need to know much about the other Trails games to enjoy Cold Steel. But as someone who hasn't played Trails in the Sky at the time I was playing Cold Steel, there were a lot of references and cameos that were just whoosh, went right over my head because I didn't know, I didn't have any knowledge of the story in that game. But overall, you know, I still enjoyed the hell out of it. It's a fantastic game. The game ended on a humongous cliffhanger, as people who've beaten the game know. It really leave you hanging. Like, this game is such a cliffhanger to the point where after that last scene, when it cut to black, it was to the point where I was expecting it to load another cutscene, but then it went to the credits instead, and I was so pissed off. But yeah, Cold Steel 2, man. This is another one that a lot of people love. I'm actually a little bit further in it than I would like to admit in terms of, because I'm a little bit too far to make it a first impressions. But at the same time, I am glad that I played as much as I did, just so I can get my full thoughts out there, at least for now. To give you an idea where I'm at, I am on Act 2, about to start Part 3 of Act 2. That's where I'm at. Now, I do have a few gripes with this game, but I want to say that none of it is game-breaking by any means. Hell, I had gripes with this game too. I had some gripes with this game too, and guess what? It was fabulous, even despite those gripes. And this game has a few gripes here and there, but believe you me, it is still fantastic. It is amazing, and I love it. I can't remember if I said so earlier, but this is so far my game of the year for 2016. And again, the gripes are just push them aside. They're really not even that big of a deal, because at the same time, what game doesn't have gripes? What game doesn't have flaws? Like, no, there's no such thing as a perfect game, no matter how good it is. There's always room for improvement. One must always strive to do better, and that's just how it goes. So, Cold Steel 2, let's get into it. So, Cold Steel 2 picks up 1 month after the events of Cold Steel 1. So the main I just want to point out, I'm so glad I remember this. This video will contain massive spoilers of the first one. If you haven't touched it or if you haven't beaten it, click out of this video right now. I will not be offended. Please do so and beat the first game before you even watch the rest of this video. So I just want to get this out there because this is a direct continuation. It's not like a half-hearted sequel. This was planned from the beginning to be multiple parts. It's actually a trilogy. And Cold Steel 3 was recently announced for Japan. I don't know what's going to come out. Even when it does come out in Japan, we in the US have a long wait ahead of us. So there you go. You have been warned. There are spoilers for Cold Steel 1 for this game. So Rean wakes up in a mountain, conveniently close enough to his hometown of Ymir, they call it. and he wakes up. He has no idea where his classmates are. He has no idea what's going on, and it's only him and the mysterious cat Celine. And Celine, I gotta say, I love her. She's hilarious. But she doesn't really have much information for us to go on. She's actually surprisingly ignorant on a lot of things. So it kind of goes to show you that her and Emma, who was also not subtle at all about her mysterious past in the first game, they clearly know things. But at the same time, it's kind of cool that they're not like knowledgeable about everything. So Celine is actually in the dark about a lot of things, so she doesn't have much to tell Rean at the time. But at the start of the game, it becomes Rean wakes up after he's been in a not a coma, but he's kind of been like just out. Like his new mysterious Mecha Knight or whatever, Valimar, has been injecting him with his energy to keep him alive, while Rean kind of recuperates after that last battle with Crow. So he wakes up, he travels down the mountain, he meets up with some of the old characters from the first game when he gets to Ymir, and then for the next little while the game kind of becomes, for the first act, to find your classmates. It starts off very simple. It's just you go from place to place to place and regroup with little bits of your classmates here and there, and you kind of learn about what's going on while you're going out to find them, about the civil war that happened after Crow killed Osborn. So it starts off one way, and then in Act 2, things kind of start to get crazier, and then it kind of starts to go in a different direction. So the story is definitely one of the strongest parts of Cold Steel 2. Just like Cold Steel 1, the story of the first game was definitely one of the more driving forces, at least in my opinion. Cold Steel 2 definitely follows suit in that regard. What I think is better about this game is the structure is much less repetitive, because one of the problems I had with the first one was that each chapter kind of felt the same. Even though the chapters themselves are really well done, the actual structure was very repetitive. So you would start the chapter off in school, you would do your student council tasks, and your social links. I call them social links. Let's not kid ourselves, they're social links. After that, you go to the old schoolhouse and do a floor, and then they talk about how mysterious it is each and every time. They go home, you wake up and do your practical exam, which is like a combat exam, in case you forgot, you don't remember. And you go to your field study, end of field study, end of chapter, start the next chapter, do it all over again. And that was, again, that was one of my bigger problems with Cold Steel 1, was how repetitive it kind of sometimes felt. Again, the chapters themselves are well done, but some variety would have been helpful. But again, it does what it does well. It's just I kind of just wish that it didn't have that formula. Like, they didn't kind of just force it on you. Cold Steel 2 definitely fixes that. All the chapters feel varied enough to the point where I can't really compare them with each other. There is one thing about the first act that is repetitive, and this only applies to the very, very end of each part of the first act, because Act 1 has 3 like sub-chapters, and the only thing that's repetitive about them is the very end. Like, seriously, you get to the end of the part of the first act, you fight 2 bosses each time, you beat them, they get up stronger, and your characters are like on their knees, like, oh my god, they're too strong. And then someone swoops in to save the day at the last second, and they're like, ha 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 ha, I can defeat you. And then all of a sudden, mechs will show up, Rean will summon Valimar, then you fight the mechs, and then you go home, and then you do it all over again the next part. So, like, seriously, just how many times one of the bosses will get up and say, ha ha ha, I was holding back all along. Oh my god, they're too strong. Not if I can help it. And then just swoop in, and then they'll like, Sarah? Or whatever. that happens for the first act. That happens every single time at the end. But again, I can't stress enough that it's only the end. It's not the whole thing. It's only the end of each part of the first act that is repetitive. That follows the same exact thing. But all the other aspects of the parts of the first act are actually pretty varied. I can't really compare them, other than the fact that the goal is just to regroup with your classmates. That's about it. So overall, the structure, with the exception of that, is definitely much more varied, and it doesn't feel as repetitive. It doesn't kind of feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Now, Act 2 is, by this point, you've regrouped all their classmates. All of Class 7 are back, and this is where my gripe comes in, though. So after you finish the first act, and then you have the intermission, which the intermission was great, by the way. I loved it. It's a very short little chapter that takes place in between the two acts, but for despite how short it is, it's very good. It's great. You kind of get to, that's just what I like about the intermission, is that you actually kind of get a more human side of the villains. They're actually they're like in a more relaxed environment, so Rean actually interacts with them one by one. You kind of see how they feel about things. You kind of see how they feel about different situations, and it really humanizes the antagonist to the point where you don't really hate them for the most part. You hate like one or two. Like, I don't like Blue Block. I fucking hate that guy. He's so annoying. I mean, he's entertaining kind of, but he's just silly. I did hear he's in Trails in the Sky. From my little playthrough of Trails in the Sky so far, I haven't met him yet, but yeah, he's a fucking goofball, and I don't really like him that much, but the intermission definitely humanizes the villains for the most part, and I think it's really good. So they all have proper motives too, and that's one of the strengths of both Cold Steel games. Mostly too because it fleshes out the antagonist more, because this is a sequel. It has to flesh out more on what was already established. But my gripe, because I kind of derailed there, my gripe is that after the intermission, the game comes to a screeching halt. It's like it's running as fast as it can, because the pacing is really fast, but not too fast, but it's very fast, running, then it just stops right in its tracks. So right now I'm on Act 2, Part 3. I'm about to start Part 3. I haven't actually done it yet. But Parts 1 and 2 of Act 2 are a fucking snooze fest. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why the game just slowed down. It's like, there are some good parts here and there, but it's just so, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why the game just stopped all of a sudden. Like, I'm really hoping that it'll kind of pick itself back up and dust itself off again, because those last two parts, again, not bad, and they were actually kind of interesting, somewhat. Like, I didn't hate them or anything, but when you compare it to everything that came before, it's just like the difference in quality between what came before and what's happening now is just mind-boggling. So they're not, again, I can't stress enough, they're not bad, they're not terrible, I don't hate them. I was actually kind of interested in what was going on. But it's just in stark contrast with everything that I've seen before. So I don't know what's happening. I really, really hope soon the game will pick itself back up, because before this part, the game was fantastic. I really was into it, and now it just kind of died. I don't know what's going on. So maybe someone in the comments can tell me if, I'm sure it will, but more so, I guess, when the game will kind of go back to the greatness that came before. So that is a gripe that I have with the game. It's not game-breaking. Again, those two parts were not bad. They just weren't that great compared to everything that came before. So I really, really am hoping that the game will go back to the high quality that it showed before. And although this does lead me to another gripe, and again, not game-breaking, but the thing is, the first game left so many things open. It only explained a few things, but it very obviously was building up to the sequel, right? So the thing is, I have so many questions right now, and I'm on Act 2, about to start Part 3 of Act 2. Nothing has been explained yet. Nothing. I have no idea. None of my questions from the first game have been answered. None of it. I have no idea what is Rean's power? What is the old schoolhouse? The first game explains that the hero Dreichels, if I'm remembering right, created the old schoolhouse as a trial. Why did he do that? How did he do that? What the fuck? There's so much shit that's not answered. And again, I'm almost 40 hours into the game. Almost 40 hours, and I don't know jack shit at all still. So that's another thing. If someone in the comments, like going back to how I said, if one of you guys can tell me if hopefully the game will pick itself back up soon. When does shit get explained? When do my questions get answered? Like, are they saying it for the end? Like is it just gonna be one giant info dump? Like, is it gonna be like, right before the final battle? Okay. Oh, right before the final battle? Okay, here's explanations for everything. We're just gonna dump all this shit on you, all this information all at once. Okay, you got that? Good, final battle. End credits after that. Like, are they saving everything for the last second? Like, when do things get explained? Do they get explained at all? I have so much I have so many questions, and I don't know anything. Like, just I would like to, like, I at least want to get an idea. So again, if someone watching this video, if you want to comment, if you've beaten the game, I mean, don't spoil anything, obviously, but when does shit get explained from the first game? What the fuck? It's so, like, I'm not forcing myself. I love the game. I almost said forcing myself. I'm not forcing myself to play. But I'm going through the motions, waiting for shit to get explained from the first game, and I'm not getting any explanations. None of my questions are being answered. So when do they get answered? I'm not gonna lie. I am kind of getting sick of the waiting. Like, I'm waiting for shit to get explained, and none of it is. And the thing is, there are so many questions from the first game. Like, again, are they saving it for the end? Is it going to get explained soon? I hope so. So it's kind of frustrating. Like, I am getting sort of tired of waiting for stuff to be answered, because I'm getting kind of frustrated with it, to be honest. Because I'll compare this to another duology. Well, actually, technically, this is a trilogy, but right now there's only 2 parts. But anyway, that's besides the point. Another duology that I played years ago is Digital Devil Saga. There's 2 parts. It's a duology. Now, by the time you beat Digital Devil Saga 1, very few of the mysteries are explained. A few of them are, but not many. The majority of it, like 95% of it, is left in the dark. When you go to Digital Devil Saga 2, it's only a few hours into the game where they start answering questions. Like, you don't have to trudge through 99% of the game in order to learn things from the first game. Like, if I remember, again, I haven't played Digital Devil Saga 2 in a while, but going off my memory, you start the game, watch the first cutscene, you go through a short dungeon which only takes like 2 or 3 hours, BAM! Explanation. They explain the origin of the junkyard, which is the world they live in, just after a couple hours. That's it. So you don't have to play 95% of the game in order to understand what's going on from the first one. So I don't like all this waiting. I am enjoying the story immensely. I think it's very well written. It's very well told. The story is better than the first one. So don't think for a second that I'm talking shit about it, aside from the slowness now. I don't know why it's slowed down so much. But yeah, I don't like this waiting for shit to get explained. There's so many mysteries, and it's getting to the point where, like I said, I'm starting to think that they're waiting for the last second. It's not going to be until the final chapter of the game where they say, oh, all the explanations all at once. Go ahead, digest all this information. Go ahead. I'll explain this and this and this and this. Go ahead, digest it. Go ahead, do your best. It's a lot to take in at the last second. So I'm wondering, is that what they're... I hope that's not what they do, because that would be bad writing. Because the thing is, the writing in this game is so stellar and so top-notch that would be very disappointing in my eyes, to just wait at the last second. So I am getting a little bit sick of the sitting here waiting for the plot twists to start happening. The only thing I learned is why Crow formed the Imperial Liberation Front. And even then, that was kind of obvious. He hates Osborn. Osborn did him wrong, and he started this organization. He started recruiting people that also hate Osborn. So it's kind of like, yeah, no shit. But I'll take what I can get, I guess. Another Skype notification. God damn it. Okay. But. Okay? There's a big but. Those are small gripes. They are by no means game-breaking. The writing in this game is still fantastic. It's some of the best writing you can hope for in an RPG. I do have one more gripe. Here I am talking shit, going back to how good it is, then going back to a gripe. Excuse me. Now, this is probably the least of my gripes, though. Out of those are my 3 gripes. This is my 3rd one. This is the smallest one. This is more of a thing that I was hoping for, honestly, and less of a problem with the game. Was that, as I said earlier, all the students in Class 7 are separated now. What I was kind of hoping for was where the game would kind of shift from group to group. So it would start off as Rean, eventually go to like Elisa's small group, then you would do her little arc, then you would go to whatever, Fee's group, and then you would show what they're doing. I kind of wanted to see what they were doing as they were happening, instead of Rean just kind of showing up and then recruiting them one by one. But again, that's my problem. That's not a problem with the story. That's my problem. That was just kind of what I was hoping for. So that's just like a whatever kind of thing. So out of all my 3 gripes with the story, that's the one that's at the very, very bottom. The very bottom. That's hardly even worth talking about. That was just kind of a personal hope of mine. But my 2 biggest gripes are the slowness that happened right now and the lack of explanations this far into the game. I don't like either of those. But they do not ruin the game by any means. The story is phenomenal so far. Very, very well told. Again, aside from the slowness now, very well paced. Definitely less repetitive than the original game. And overall, it continues on. It takes an already great story and just continues it. Honestly, this game feels more like Disc 2 than Part 2. Although I kind of get the feeling that was the point, was that it just feels like you're going from Disc 1 to Disc 2 rather than Part 1 to Part 2, if that makes any sense. Excuse me. But overall, yeah, the story, despite those minor hiccups, is definitely one of the strongest aspects of the game. It's very well done. I'm enjoying it immensely. So don't think for a second that I'm saying it's bad. It's just those are a couple of minor problems. Even though I'm kind of saying the same fucking thing over and over again. I guess just to kind of get across the fact that I do love this game. Those are some kind of minor disappointments. But enough about the story. The story's fantastic. I love it. Gameplay-wise, it plays like the first one. That's why I've actually been talking about the story so much, is because that's the biggest draw of Trails of Cold Steel. And the gameplay is pretty much the same. Honestly, the battle system is exactly the same. There's only one new addition that I've seen to the combat, and that is what they call overdrives. Now, early on in the game, they're going to introduce the overdrives. So what happens is, at the top of the screen, there's a little red circle. As you attack and receive damage, the bar will start to go up. Once it fills up, you can do an overdrive when 2 characters are linked with each other. So what this means is that you get 3 consecutive turns, and each character gets one. They each get a turn during those 3 turns, and then whenever you attack, that unbalances the enemy, and which is basically like a critical hit, and then you get a bravery point. So, and it also recovers a good portion of your hit points, magic points, and craft points. So this is a good thing if, like, whenever you're in a jam, like if a boss is just like wrecking your shit completely, and you have an overdrive meter filled up, bam, do overdrive, and you can make a comeback. But what's nice is that it's not so overpowered to the point where, well, it's just that. It's not overpowered. It's not cheap. You're not breaking the game. It's just like a last second. It's your trump card, pretty much. That's the thing. Is that that's actually what I like about the overdrive system, is that it's like it's in the back of your pocket. You're saving it for when you really need it. You can make a comeback with the overdrive system, but it's not going to guarantee a win. You're not going to win the boss battle just by doing an overdrive. You're just going to up your chances of winning the battle. So that's really good, is how balanced it feels. I really like the overdrive system because, again, you can make a comeback. You can turn the tide of losing battle in your favor, but again, it doesn't guarantee your victory. It just helps you. You'll make a comeback. So that's really good. Other than that, the combat's pretty much exactly the same. Actually, no, it is exactly the same. Not pretty much. It is exactly the same. So, there are a few new additions outside of combat, though. So once you get to Act 2, you get the Courageous, they call it, which is, if you remember from the first game, it's the ship that takes you on your final field study. And in Act 2, it's yours. It's yours, the pilot. Now, you don't actually fly the ship physically. You talk to Toa. She's your, I guess she's the captain or whatever. You talk to her. It'll open up a map of the world, and then you use a cursor and kind of select where you want to go. So that's the thing, is that since the first game ended the way that it did, you don't go to school anymore. So you're out in the world exploring, even though you're limited to where you can go for quite some time because of the Civil War, because there's a lot of checkpoints, like military checkpoints. Lots of places that are off limits for now, like no-fly zones and whatnot. But as you continue through the game, more areas will open up, and you have more and more freedom as you progress through the game. So that's really cool. So you definitely feel like you have more room to explore. There's you can kind of stretch out your legs and just go wherever you want, or at least that where they let you go at the time. So there's not many invisible walls. There's not a lot of we can't go here because of this and this. It happens sometimes, but not that much. So again, you're out in the world exploring, which is definitely a plus in my eyes. The other cool thing is that eventually you get to ride Angelica's motorcycle, which is a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite. That's like my favorite new feature of this game, is that riding on Angelica's bike is, first of all, it's just fun in general, and second of all, you go like you drive so fast to the point where going from place to place to place to place on foot is no longer a chore. Even with the dash button, when you're on foot, feels like you're going a little bit too slow if you have to make a really long trek from one town to another. When you're riding Angelica's bike, that problem is just gone. You could zip through everything. The enemies don't even come after you when you're on the bike. So that's really, really helpful. They have this new thing where you can after the academy was taken over by the Imperial Liberation Front, all the students were scattered about the world. So once you get the Courageous, you can travel from place to place and actually recruit students to join you on the Courageous, and they can do different things. Like you'll recruit one that'll open the item shop, another one to open a weapon shop, another one to have like a kind of a Coliseum type thing. You'll hire another one that has a chef, etc. So there's a lot of students to recruit. There's like almost 40, I think, if I'm remembering right. I can't remember the exact number, but they all have a different function. There's even one that lets you customize Valimar, your mech. Sorry about that. Like you can actually put like gems inside of Valimar to upgrade his stats, like an HP buff, strength buff, etc. So there's definitely a lot more freedom in terms of gameplay. Again, despite the overdrive system, combat is identical to the first one. You're going to feel right at home whenever you get to it, or when you play the game. But all these new features definitely add a lot of spice to the game. So the fact that you're kind of free to go wherever you want when you get the Courageous, also with Angelica's bike, customizing Valimar, all these different things definitely make the game feel more fresh than you would think for a direct sequel. So, but aside from that, there's really not much to talk about. The gameplay is, aside from those new additions, pretty much the same as the first one. Like, there's no point in me discussing the battle system because, again, it's the same. The orbment system, like the quartz and the master quartz, it's all the same. It's all there. It's intact from the first one. So, overall, I guess I can stop it right here because I've said my piece. Overall, Trails of Cold Steel 2 is fantastic. It's my game of the year so far. I don't know what other games are. Oh, Final Fantasy 15 is coming out. I'm sure that's going to be great, but honestly, I kind of doubt that any game that comes out for the duration of this year is even going to hold a candle to this fantastic piece of work. It's great. I cannot stress this, though. You have to play this game first. You have to. This game, Trails of Cold Steel 2, was not made for newcomers in mind. There is, on the title screen, a backstory thing where you can view like details on all the characters, all the things that happen in the first chapters of the first game. But here's the thing, is that this feels like it's more of a refresher for people that haven't played the first game in a while, and it definitely is not enough to recap, or rather to fill in newcomers. That's not what it is. It's just there to refresh veterans. That is it. Do not play Cold Steel 2 without playing Cold Steel 1. Okay? Cannot stress that. That is an undeniable fact. Screensaver. God damn it. Sorry about that. A lot of hiccups today on this video. I'm kind of just winging this video. But if you have played Cold Steel 1, which you should, there's no reason for you to not pick this up. It's great. It's a great game. My hiccups, again, are not by any means game-breaking. They do not hurt the experience that much. Just they're noticeable, but they're like, whatever. But aside from those gripes, game of the year, it's fabulous. I love it, and this duel, it's 2 out of 3 parts. This game, there's the third one coming our way. But these 2 games, I cannot recommend them enough. They're outstanding. They're outstanding games. I love every bit of them. So, thanks guys for watching. I'm sorry this definitely wasn't the best video. Kind of out of the loop. If you are wondering, if you're a subscriber, why are there no reviews? I'll tell you. The thing is, I have so many technical problems every time I try to fix a technical problem, 2 more show up. So it's like, it's almost like there's this mysterious entity following me around, fucking me over every time I manage to fix a technical flaw. So I would like to go back to making reviews. It is a lot of fun. But there's just so many issues. There's so many technical problems that I run into, to the point where it's so frustrating that I don't even bother anymore. But I want to review. Speaking of reviews, though, I'm glad I actually started talking about this, because me and a friend of mine, Forrest Reviews, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, made a co-op review of Trails of Cold Steel on his channel, him and I. So actually, what I'm going to do is I am actually going to link that review in the description. So if you're interested, if you want to play Trails of Cold Steel, you can watch that review to kind of get a more in-depth explanation on, you know, what the game's about and all that good stuff. So if you're on the fence, even despite my recommendation of Trails of Cold Steel, you can watch that review to kind of get a more in-depth analysis on what makes the game so great. But that is why you haven't seen any reviews in God knows how long. As much as I would love to, there's just so many technical problems that always hinder my efforts to reviewing for you guys. But because it's a shame, whenever I can do reviews, I love doing them. It's just all those technical issues. But so that's it for me. I hope you did enjoy the video, despite how awful this went, because there's so many hiccups that went in this video. But overall, yeah, Trails of Cold Steel 2, love it, fantastic. Game of the year. Play this first, though, before you jump into this one. You will not be disappointed. And again, I actually do think that this game is better than the first one in almost every regard. So definitely check them out if you can. So this has been Swordfish. Take care, everyone.